Welcome back, spiritual practitioners. This season, we're centering learning.
That's right. We're your hosts, Biani and Sequoia, and we're here to delve into the heart of our conversations. We're focusing on the lack of culturally rooted resources to support BIPOC folks navigating religious and spiritual trauma.
In our previous seasons, we emphasized the importance of unlearning, decolonizing, and divesting from oppressive teachings and institutions. If you're new here, welcome and make sure to check out our previous episodes on our channel. Now, we are dedicated to deepening our knowledge and understanding so that we can better support ourselves and our clients.
And as we navigate this season of learning, we aim to provide you with the tools, tips, and insights to help you on your path of reclaiming to soul work.
Whether you're well versed in spiritual practices or just beginning your journey, join us as we explore the intersectional impact of religious and spiritual trauma on mental health.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to elevate your understanding of mental health and spiritual well being as we embark on this season of learning. Let's get started.
Thank you so much, Biani, for welcoming everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Sequoia. I use she and her pronouns. We'll get more into introduction shortly, but just wanted to welcome y'all again as we talk about queerness and spirituality today. We're going to talk about some of the trending topics that we've been seeing showing up related to therapy around queerness and spirituality. We'll talk about why center queer spirituality during Pride Month, what the role of spirituality is, stigma in religious and spiritual spaces, and also why queerness is a blessing. So we are really glad to be here for our season 5 podcast launch. So again, as I mentioned, definitely check out the rest of the seasons. I think that there will be something there for everyone. There's a little bit, for everyone there. And so yeah, I would love to check in with Biani.
Oh, I'm kind of laughing a little bit because we're both like dealing with like sinus, like allergies. And I'm like listening to my voice. So I'm trying my best. But I was just sitting here thinking like this is episode 27.
Mm-hmm.
We've
That it
been
is.
at this for a minute, y'all. Like
Yeah.
we here, we here, we here. And yeah, I'm just so excited about that. Sorry. I'm
Well,
really
take
excited
your
about that.
time.
So
Take your
excited
time.
that I'm coughing. Um, but yeah, just the fact that we've gotten this far. We mentioned it on our IG live, but we've been doing this work. I'm really grateful. Yeah.
It's a
So
lot to take in.
it really is. It really is. But let me do this welcome, y'all. Let me introduce you to Reclaiming Soul Work. We are a heart-centered podcast by two queer Black femme healers and spiritual social workers who explore the intersection of magic, spirituality, mental health, and everything in between. My name is Biani. I use she, they pronouns. And like we always do, at the podcast, we like ground ourselves in like land acknowledgement and letting folks know where we're at. I live, work, and play in the land of Lenape Hoking. And the lineages are from where I come from. I'm from the South Bronx by way of Dominican Republic. Both my parents are from Santo Domingo. And being a child of immigrant parents is sort of the thing that roots me in the way I look at the world as a Black Latina. Um, and what else? I guess my big three feels important because we were having some tech issues. And because I'm a baby astro witch, but I don't remember fully what's going on right now. Clearly something's going on in Mercury. I just feel it. But my sun is in Virgo, my moon is Aries, and my rising is Cancer. So that feels like important to say. But yeah, how about you, Sequoia? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. And it has definitely been like a very interesting journey to be here at episode 27, season 5. Even though we are currently centering the theme of religious trauma, there has always been this common thread of intersectionality as it relates to spirituality, mental health, and social justice. And yeah, I think that the work that we've done so far, the collaborations that we've made, even the episodes where we centered different writings that are at those intersections as well. I think that there's some really cool resources that we have compiled so far, so definitely y'all like check it out. um and yeah, my name is Sequoia. I use she and her pronouns. I am currently in Charlotte, North Carolina on Catawba Indigenous lands. Um, Acknowledging my ancestors. My ancestors on both sides come from Alabama, the deep South. So acknowledging those roots. Um, what else are we saying? Big three. We saying big three. Is that what we doing?
Yeah, yeah, big three.
Okay. Um, I'm an Aquarius sun, a Aries moon, and a Libra rising. So those are my big three. I am really excited to like get into this topic though, Biani.
Yes,
I'm
yes. And
excited to get into this topic. But
yeah,
the one thing that I do, the other thing that I want to acknowledge too is, can we take like 30 seconds, 60 seconds to like acknowledge, maybe like a silent acknowledgement about just everything that is going on right now, you know,
yes,
um, as it relates to global suffering and, social unrest and just not knowing like what the future holds. Um,
yeah, I love
yeah,
that. Yes,
can we do like 30 seconds?
yes. Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Um, so why are we exploring learning and religious trauma?
So, for those who've been with us
Hmm.
since the beginning, shout out to you. Thank you for riding this wave with us. And for those who are new, welcome. Um, and make sure you subscribe, hit that like button and subscribe so you get notifications for future episodes. Um, so, we have 3 pillars as a part of Reclaiming Soul Work. Our first pillar is unlearning, our second is learn, and our third is relearn. And we are so inspired by that pillar that we made a tarot spread for y'all. It's on our IG, free spread for you. We even made one for World Tarot Day that you can check out. Some really dope free spreads with the 3 pillars. And so the last couple seasons, the last 4 seasons, we were really dedicated to unlearning, to decolonizing, to divesting from the trainings, the institutions that we came from that quote unquote taught us how to be a therapist slash social worker slash counselor. And I feel like, if you're here for the first time, make sure you watch our previous episodes. If you're back, make sure you watch our previous episodes so that you can reconnect. to like that sort of wisdom from our first pillar. But we feel like there's no way that we can do this work of spiritual as spiritual therapists, as queer Black femmes, if we're not rooted in unlearning. And when we root ourselves in unlearning, we make a lot of room for learning, right? And we are in this place in our like in the podcast and reclaiming soul work where it's like time for us to like learn, and grow together. Like Sequoia was saying when we met yesterday, like we're really committed to learning and growing. And truthfully, when we were thinking about the theme for this season, we kept coming back to religious trauma. It was something that kind of we always sort of touched in our episodes. Just a little, a little dabble here, a little dabble there. And we also noticed that on our IG page, it really resonated with folks, like their own experiences of leaving Christianity or leaving these dominant, quote unquote, traditional religions and moving into more non-traditional and alternative. And so we noticed even the engagement on our page, which you should follow us there too on IG. But we noticed this sort of yearning and like curiosity and conversation around like, hey, how do we talk about religious trauma and spiritual trauma with the folks we hold space for, particularly QT BIPOC folks, particularly Black, queer, and trans folks, right? And we find, and given everything that's going on, unfortunately, in the world too, I mean, religious trauma is often sort of connected to a lot of us. And we really felt that it was like time to do a deep dive in community. And I will pause here in case, Sequoia, you want to add anything else as to like our why.
Yeah, thank you so much for just starting us off. Like I said, I've been really excited to really center this topic for a while. Um, I agree with everything that you said, especially about like the intersections of religious and spiritual affiliations, right, in some type of way, and how they have impacted us. I think is a really important topic. Um, and it's not only important for spiritual mental health practitioners to be able to support clients with their journey around those topics, but also like us as therapists, like how have you looked at those intersections for yourself, So I'm excited to talk more, about all of those aspects, but especially just thinking more about um how this shows up in therapy spaces and how we as practitioners support folks and hold space for folks related to this stuff.
Right. I think something we've been noticing too is that a lot of the conversations about religious trauma are really narrow and limited. And we have found, as two queer Black femmes and feminists, that the conversations lack nuance. The conversations are really narrow and specific to certain groups of people. And then that gets placed on the experiences of like QT BIPOC folks. And so for us too, we felt really like, listen, it's time to have a conversation about religious trauma that centers the lived experiences of QT BIPOC folks. And, yeah, like it's time. It's time.
So we can talk about this in a few ways. We have, as Biani has mentioned, like sprinkled this into our work since season one. So that means that there are IG posts, that are related to the topic. So y'all definitely check out our IG page. The other thing that I think is super important to root and ground us in, is Pride Month. And we've done, like, I was putting together a little like queer playlist. Um, and we got some really gay episodes. I was thinking about our episode that we did. This was November 2022. The story time, how we work with queer ancestors, how we center queer
That's
ancestors.
right.
I was thinking about the episode that we did with Vex for the book chat on her book, House of Our Queer, Healing, Reflaming, Reclaiming Your Spiritual Practices. Um, the episode with Nat was really
Yeah.
gay. Like, I'm like, okay. And then, we did the episode on conversion therapy. So I was
Hmm.
trying to put together a little, playlist.
A pride playlist.
Yeah, yeah, for Pride Month and everything. And we have some really interesting topics, that again I feel like are just continually rooted in this conversation around deconstructing proximity to mainstream religion.
Hmm. I just love that, basically what I'm hearing is that we celebrate pride all year long. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah,
And particularly like Black pride. I mean,
definitely.
Black and Latina pride, because like,
Yes,
that's where it originated from.
that's
So
right.
Black and Latina trans ancestors, So yes, I love it. I'm here for it. Uh, yeah, we have a lot of really good episodes. We've been talking about
Mhm.
making a syllabus. So y'all, if like y'all really interested in a syllabus, let us know. Let us know in the
Mhm.
comments and hit us up. But yeah, we got some good stuff.
Yes. So I wanted to get us into our topic for today, which is around, queerness and spirituality. And as we again kind of go over some of the work that we've already done, related to these intersections. So we talked about our IG posts, we've also mentioned like some of the previous YouTube and also IG lives that we've done related to religious trauma, queerness, spirituality, something like that. Like those,
Hmm.
are the ones that we highlighted. I will also say another episode that was really gay was the episode with Enfleshed.
Oh, that was a good one.
That was a really good
I can't
live.
wait for my deck. They're gonna have to come back on the show. They're gonna have to come back on the
I
podcast. So
know, I
we
know. We
we
need
go,
to
yeah.
revisit.
I mean,
We
y'all
need
y'all
to
had me.
revisit
Oh, it's so
them.
good. That was so
We
good.
need to revisit them. But that was another really gay episode.
It was gay. It was also like gay church though. Like it was gay church. Gay
Yeah.
church. Like
Yes.
I'm down for any kind of fellowship that
Yes. Yes.
turns into
Yes.
gay church. It was fun.
Yeah.
Church. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, for me, as I was thinking about just again, like the work that we've already done,
Right.
and the resources that we've already compiled around these intersections, like what have we said about queerness and spirituality and what are we trying to say about it? I
Mm,
recently went to um, a queerness and spirituality event at social work program. And, it was a really good event. I feel like folks were able to share, their perspectives and their experiences related to being queer and, being in religious and spiritual spaces. Um, I still feel like that even in spaces like that, though, it feels very much like what you were offering, Biani, about talking about queerness and spirituality, even from a white perspective, or
mhm.
just that experience, as opposed to like someone sharing about being in a spiritual house or something. It
Right.
was predominantly folks, who had grown up like Christian or There was some Catholic folks in there, and you know, just other kind of typical mainstream, religious experiences. But there wasn't any. It didn't shift into the cultural
Right.
relevance part that I think is really important.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I even think about our earlier episodes where we've talked about queerness and spirituality and how for us it feels really interrelated.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, even my own experience. We again, y'all need to watch earlier episodes, but like we definitely tell our origin story around our relationship to religion and spirituality. And yeah, I have found that, and maybe it's true for some of y'all tuning in. Like any conversations about religious trauma are these like classic control, power, abuse, and it feels it's important, but it gets universalized. That's the part that I'm always like red light, red flag, red flag, because I think there's a lot more nuance for our experiences as QT BIPOC folks, and there's ways that religious trauma like it lives in us in a way that's really different than white folks, than people who are like, yeah, than white folks. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just thinking even about my relationship to elders and how that
Hmm.
might have been shaped by the Catholic religion, or my training in like Reiki. There was some interesting dynamics in that community. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear more from you about, like you mentioned, the Reiki piece. I've always been wondering about you being a doula, and like
Mhm.
how it's shown up even in that space. So
I
yeah.
appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Hmm.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
my doula training was so complicated. I really enjoyed my doula training with the midwife that I was trained by, but I noticed in other spaces it was super like it felt turfy sometimes, or most times, um and kind of like essentialist, like women's bodies, and now we have language for it, but I would say maybe like 13, 14 years ago, it wasn't necessarily queer affirming at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't acknowledge like the danger for Black birthing folks giving birth in the medical industrial complex. And but in Reiki too, there's a way that it felt really culturally appropriative,
Hmm.
and it never sat right with me, which is why I don't call myself a Reiki practitioner now. I would, probably lean more towards an energy practitioner. Um, and the history of Western Reiki is so rooted in cultural appropriation. This idea of like going on a weekend and you come back as a Reiki practitioner in a ancient practice that has existed for, is
Yeah.
something about that feels weird. But yeah, there was moments of my earlier Reiki training, not the most recent one, because that one was from a really dope Black trans um, neurodivergent person. But like in the earlier sort of parts of my training, it was really problematic. Ooh. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think I think a lot of us don't realize that we bring in a lot of the mainstream religions we come from. We bring in that colonial mindset, even in these like alternative, new age, quote unquote, new age, non traditional practices. Like we bring that
Yes.
with us.
Yes.
And and
Yes.
because we don't acknowledge the religious trauma we have, we just perpetuate it without our awareness. And that has felt
Well,
true
I
for me. I
appreciate
wonder
that.
for those who are watching
Hmm.
now, like let us know what you think, what your thoughts are.
Hmm.
But sometimes I get my yoga experience sometimes felt like that. Some of my yoga classes, and I really love yoga, but I often felt like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. Like, yeah.
Definitely.
What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was my experience going through my yoga teacher training, and it's the same thing. Great training. It was from, a South Asian identified person, and so for me, I felt good about that experience, and learning from the person that I did. I was very that was very important to me because yoga is just so co-opted and just um anyway, I'm not gonna get into that. So yeah, but yes, I think that even, even in navigating some aspects of my yoga teacher training, like while it was very good on the culturally rooted, like, while also holding, like, preparing us so that, we have this understanding of ethics and morals as it relates to appropriation. Like, that's how I want to say that. I think that there's more to be said about, when queerness or transness kind of came up in the practices as we were learning, you know, and potentially maybe even some ableism aspects as well, like differently able bodies, as it relates to different postures, so I think yeah.
I mean, part of it is like what we've been talking offline, that so we go, and we mentioned this on our IG page, like we're escaping these like dogmatic, problematic religions
Mm-hmm.
from our family or community of origin, and we're yearning for like a cultural, responsive one that's really connected to our ancestral and indigenous ties. And I think there's a part of us that forgets, like, I can't run away from some of these isms though, right? Because we all kind of have it until
Yeah.
we're like doing that unlearning and decolonizing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it is disappointing and it stings. Like, oh, that hurts, right? I thought I was moving away from this. Like, this community, for me, is like it's African centered and it's rooted in like a Black consciousness. And yet, there's ableism here. There's like, to me, some elements of anti-Blackness. If you're not queer affirming, for me, that feels like that's anti-Black. And so it's complicated. And how do we navigate that? And that's what we're trying to do this season, hold the nuance around that. Because, hey, Winnie baby, she also agrees. You see, she agrees too.
Clearly.
Um, so how do we hold that truth too around the fact that, what does it mean to be in community, grow spiritually, and be in spaces that might be culturally rooted, but they're not, they might be queerphobic and transphobic and ableist and misogynistic, like, that there's still elements of that in there.
Yes. Yes. I greatly appreciate this conversation. Um, let's see. The Some of the other things that we talked about in our season 5 launch IG live. We did that on Thursday. We talked about how church hurt feels like some of the conversations that we've heard around church hurt feel like they're minimizing the abuse that folks are experiencing and expressing. That there's this kind of overlap between religious leader and influencer, and what ultimately gets seen as an issue or something that should be talked more about is based on what goes viral. We talked about religious trauma being talked about from a white perspective, again, like this centering of kind of mainstream religious practices and not those where, it's culturally appropriate. We talked about mental health stigma from church, so that many of us get our understandings, or some of our understandings and ideologies about mental health, seeking therapy, you know, um, from the church. We talked about that some therapists will recommend for Black queer folks or queer folks to just leave their families, and how that's not a supportive, like recommendation for Black queer folks a lot of the times, and like how that ties into Black queer folks if they are from a dysfunctional family and their family doesn't accept them. They, might separate from that family and have no contact with them. And then let's say that they start, attending some type of church, spiritual space, synagogue, right? Whatever practice it might be. And then they have a bad experience and then they have to leave that space. It's this opening up of that same type of trauma when they had to separate or go no contact with their family. So those are some of the things that we talked about in
I I feel like we dropped so many gems in that like launch, and I want to emphasize what Sequoia just said, because that was something that just came to us in the live. But often we're like leaving our family of origin or like the religious upbringing, and we're thinking we're escaping those dynamics, and those things come with us, or they show up in the new like spiritual or like the practices that we're entering into on our own volition, like we're choosing it. And yet those traumatizing like patterns are like there it's also there too. And I hear this a lot in my work with QT BIPOC folks, and that it's just, this is the kind of stuff we're trying to get into, y'all, like this level of depth, because it's important. And what does it mean to hold space for clients who are navigating this, right? Like, it's not just tell me about your religious trauma. Like, there's so many nuances to it. I also want to say too that this idea of being estranged from your family is such a privilege for white folks to say to clients. Like, I've heard people be like, if only they can just like stop talking to their parents, their life would be so much better. And it's just like, where do you get where do you get that that's actually an intervention that could be really trauma informed, culturally responsive, and also really nuanced? Like, that's not true for a lot of us as QT BIPOC folks. Like, that's not a possibility for a lot of us. I know a lot of QT BIPOC folks that won't tell their therapist. If their therapist comes out and is like, oh, if you just go no contact with your mom, and it's like, it's really complicated when you're taking care of your mom, or this is your connection to your family, and it's, so some of it feels very like white perspective and very rooted in like colonial therapy.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I appreciate you for bringing that up, because it also reminds me of the last part of that IG live where we talked about the emotional and psychological challenges of leaving, leaving a religious spiritual space, and I think that falls right in line with what you shared. I want to acknowledge that we have 15 minutes left.
I'm sorry. Hilarious. How did we get here?
15 minutes.
All
Okay.
right. We're gonna make this work. That's hilarious. You're right. I'm looking at the time. Hey y'all. Thanks for being here. Reclaiming Soul Work Podcast, Season 5, Episode 27. If you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe to our channel so that you get notifications. We are going live all summer. We kicked off our first episode today on kicking off Pride with a conversation about queerness and spirituality. So make sure that you come back, because we will be going live again in 2 weeks. And so, yes, we have 15 minutes. That is the plug. And we are going to use those 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think that this was a great episode to center the work that we've done already around queerness and spirituality. Like, I think this is a great like check-in episode. Like, this is our 27th episode marker. Like, this wraps up everything that we have, offer and put out there, mostly free, might I say. Mostly free resources. Okay. Um Things that we've already put out there. This is the work that we've done around the intersections of queerness and spirituality. That's what we
Word.
did today.
Yeah, we have a lot of our resources are free and available to y'all on our
Mhm.
website and on our IG. And
Yeah.
we have some really dope offerings coming too. So you gotta stay connected and follow, like even just join our newsletter community because you will get first dibs
Yeah.
on our future offerings.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Well, I mean, at this point, what I can say is, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm looking forward to this season.
Hmm. Yes.
So there's that. Um,
I feel like I want to talk about pride a little bit too as we close out.
oh,
Um,
share, share,
yeah,
share.
like
I mean, this can be main takeaways. This is
yeah, like main takeaways. I've been struck by like what's trending online around like no pride in a genocide, and I love that, and I'm glad that we're rooting into that. And I appreciate you inviting us. That's one of the main takeaways. Inviting us. Yes, honey. Yes. Let me talk. Let's talk about that. See, listen, y'all. We're both Aries moon, so we be like getting each other. But one thing I love is that we really rooted in a practice of like honoring this moment because things have been really hard, y'all, for a really long time. And we're not going to sit here and like bypass. We're not about that at Reclaiming Soul Work. But there is no pride during a genocide. And also, um, something that really resonates too is the fact that like pride was a radical act, right? And so this idea of like people pink washing or buying into like the targetification and like like all of that about pride is a way to like distill and move away from the truth of what incited and birthed pride, which was like our black and Latina trans ancestors who really birthed pride. And for me, that's radical and it's spiritual, and hella about freedom. And I just love that, we've been here 27 episodes, really rooting into like Black queer pride for a long time. I'm like, you made a playlist, so that's like every episode. Every episode is kind of like a, Black queer pride playlist. But yeah, I just think, yeah, I'm excited about what's to come for us and the podcast and the community that we keep growing, y'all. So like, you are our community. And so if you are a QT BIPOC spiritual therapist, or you're somebody who's like, I'm in the field and I definitely want to do spiritual work after I graduate, like this place is for you. And so, yeah, I just, stay on for this ride. Stay on with us. What about you, Sequoia? That's where I'll stop.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I am very excited about this season. I'm excited about the offerings that we have coming up, the resources that we have planned. Um, I think that this is a resource that therapists need because it's something that I need. So yeah, I'm excited as well to see where things go. Please make sure that you are following us on all of the social media so you know like what's going on. We have some fun things coming up. We got some fun things coming up, and so we want to stay connected, stay in community with y'all so that we can share, yeah, and continue to support each other.
Well, on that note, I'm going to close us out then. um, excuse me. What I wanted to say was too that we've had some really dope offerings in the past. And that's what Sequoia is talking about. So like if you stay in community with us, you'll get first dibs on all the offerings that we have for for you, for our community. So thanks again for being in community with us and supporting a heart-centered podcast by two queer Black femme healers and spiritual social workers who explore the intersection of magic, spirituality, mental health, and everything in between. And like we mentioned before, we would love to stay connected and build the spiritual mental health practitioner and healing community. So please subscribe to our YouTube page on Reclaiming Soul Work Podcast. Once you subscribe, you can set a reminder for notifications when we release an episode, which for the summer, it will be every other Monday, y'all. So make sure you tune in. If you sign up at the landing page on our website, you'll be notified when we have a new episode and for future offerings. You can also sign up to our free newsletter, First Quarter Moon, for news, offerings, events, and updates. And make sure you follow us on socials. We are on Instagram, but we're also on TikTok too. So you make sure you stay tuned in. Follow us on all the socials, and we will see y'all in 2 weeks. Bye.